Shopify grows your business no matter how far or big you grow. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. Whether you're selling your fans' next favorite shirt or an exclusive piece of podcast merch, Shopify helps you sell everywhere. Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the U.S. Allbirds, Rothy's, Brooklinen, and millions of other entrepreneurs of every size across 175 countries. Plus, Shopify's award-winning help is there to support your success every step of the way. Because businesses that grow, grow with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/income, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/income now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in.
Hi everyone, I'm Deb Flashenberg. Welcome to Yoga, Birth, Babies, a podcast produced by Prenatal Yoga Center. We will be diving into everything prenatal yoga, birth, and baby related, hoping to inspire, educate, and empower you through your journey into motherhood. Thank you for listening.
Hi, I'm Deb Flashenberg, and I am your host of Yoga Birth Babies, and today we're going to talk about newborn sleep. So, full heads up, I am very pro sleep. I will be honest, it is one of my favorite activities. And when I do not get enough sleep, I am, let's just say, not the nicest to be around. So, back when I was a new parent, finding a way to get sleep and to help my baby get sleep was vital. So, anytime someone in the sleep world, a sleep consultant, reaches out to want to talk about how to help set up healthy sleep patterns for a baby and healthy sleep relationship, I am game for that because I think it just benefits the whole family when everyone is sleeping well. So to have this conversation, I have Kristine Petterson. She is a birth doula, a pre- and postnatal yoga instructor, a mindful sleep and parenting educator. She's a sleep consultant, and she's got some amazing things to share. So we dive into the importance of a healthy sleep relationship, her beliefs in the baby learning to self-soothe. She gives amazing tips. It is something you want to listen to probably a couple times so you can really take some notes and help create a healthy sleep pattern for a baby and a healthy sleep relationship. I am very excited. As one sleeper to another, I am very excited for you to hear that conversation. Before we jump into my conversation with Kristine, I always love to give updates of the studio. So I am incredibly excited to announce that we have a new workshop at our studio. We have Ellen Gary, who is, if anyone takes either the online or in-person classes, you've probably taken Ellen's class. She is an amazing teacher. She's one of our senior teachers. She's my co-teacher trainer, and just all around brilliant person. She has more certifications than I can count. She was a former L&D nurse. Her latest endeavor is she is a Body Ready Method Pro, and she is going to be offering a workshop that is going to help prepare the body beyond what we do in our prenatal class, moving through the 3 layers of the pelvis, how to help baby navigate that, preparing the body deeper than we get into our prenatal classes. So I'm super excited that that workshop is now on the schedule. Yay! You can check that out. That's so far just in studio. I don't have an online for that, but maybe soon. I hope so soon. So that's happening in our workshops. Our teacher training, we have a few spots left for the September-October teacher training, and then we do it September, October, November, December, January, February online, and then it'll be March, April in person. That's our prenatal teacher training. And then every May we do a postnatal teacher training. And then of course we've got all of our prenatal and postnatal classes. So there's so much to do and get involved in and educate and prepare yourself for birth and postpartum and parenthood that I just am so excited for you to get a hold of. So you can check all that out on our website, prenatalyogacenter.com. The last thing I want to share is that, actually I lied, there's 2 more things. The second to last thing I want to share is we have a special birthday coming up at PYC. So we're going to be 22 years old, and every year I do a free community class. So keep your eye out on our website or sign up for our newsletter to find out when you can do that class. And it'll be an online community class. I like to bring people from years past to current students in and take a class together and just enjoy each other and the growth that we experience as people and as parents and as a community and studio. So keep an eye on our website or get a spot on our newsletter. And then the last thing is a favor I like to ask is take a moment to please leave a rating and review for the podcast. It helps people find us. I've been doing this passion project of the podcast, I think it's 8 years, and people continuously find us because we have such an amazing community that supports us. So I want to say thank you, and please, please to leave a review. Thank you for being part of the community. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, please enjoy my conversation with Kristine.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 up front for 3 months plus taxes and fees. Promo rate for new customers for limited time. Unlimited more than 40 gigabytes per month. Slows full terms at mintmobile.com.
Hi, Kristine. How are you?
I'm great today, Deb. Thank you.
Oh, I'm so excited to speak with you. Sleep is like one of my favorite pastimes and something I hold dear to my heart because I know when I don't get good sleep, it ruins my day and probably my family's. So I'm really excited to talk about newborn sleep because a newborn sleep affects the parents. But I guess before we get into that, I would love to know a little bit more about you and what led you to birth work and then to become a certified sleep sense consultant.
Yeah, thank you. I totally agree with the fact that sleep is like a vital necessity for patients and parenting stamina. I am a teacher by trade, but high school really burned me out. I was teaching juniors and seniors and doing too much as a young person. So when I had the opportunity to move to Brooklyn, New York, I started teaching yoga full time. I worked mostly with kids and I taught some adult classes, but I was asked by friends and yoga students to accompany them to their births. And I feel like this is a common story of how folks get into doula work. And I just loved it. I also got certified as a prenatal and postnatal yoga instructor and completed a DONA birth doula certification after moving back to the Inland Northwest.
And then how did you end up with the interest in being a sleep consultant?
Right. So that was my own parenting experience there, as you might imagine. I really came into a place of parenting already feeling frustrated about the limitations of pregnancy. I loved birth. As a doula, I went into birth just knowing that I had a beautiful home birth, knowing that I was going to be empowered and supported by a large group of people who were there that had my best interest in mind. And we had a beautiful birth. And then I felt like very soon after that, everything spiraled into a very, very dark place. Mostly because my mental health is very closely tied to my sleep. And I just wasn't getting any. And part of that was my choice. I was doing too much. I didn't rest very well. I did not take my own advice, right? Like, let's just be very clear about that. I think that's a common problem in parenthood, right?
Oh, definitely. I find myself, I'm a much better teacher than doer. I hear you.
Absolutely. But I kept thinking, it'll get better. She'll start sleeping through more like longer stretches at night. And it really didn't, Deb. I will tell you, we were 11 months into the parenting experience. I was on the verge of divorce. I was so resentful because my husband got to sleep through the night and just like waltz off to the day job. And I was stuck at home with a baby that didn't nap and woke up honestly 7 to 9 times a night. So we were up every sleep cycle. She needed me to rock her and feed her back to sleep.
Oh, yeah. We ended up working with a sleep consultant, I think around, gosh, it's a little fuzzy, somewhere like 12 to 16 weeks, somewhere in there. And it changed our lives. I know that sounds dramatic, but it changed everything between me and my husband, my mental state, just the whole sleep and structure of our day. So anytime someone wants to talk about newborn sleep, I'm like, yes, it is so helpful for the whole family. So thank you for sharing that. So when did you find, so what happened at 11 months? Was that something that turned, you're like, I got to get this sleep situation under control? And how did you do that?
Well, that's an interesting question because really at around like 6 months, I was like, I'm hearing all of these things from care providers and experts that babies technically can be sleeping through the night at 6 months. So why are we still up every 90 minutes? And why is it taking longer and longer to get her back to sleep? And the feedback I started getting at that point was like, cry it out. That's the way to go. And we tried all sorts of different sleep guides and techniques, and none of them worked. Finally, someone gave me the number of a sleep consultant, contacted them, invested the time and the energy and the money in having this person coach us through. The first night's always the hardest, but my baby slept through the night on the first night. Like it was this beautiful and incredible process. And after that, it was like the clouds parted, the sunbeams shined down on us, and life resumed as I imagined it to be. And we were like, let's have another child. I mean, so many opportunities open up. I could go back to work. So at that, and I was a teacher, my sleep consultant, who's a good friend now, Shannon, said, you would be really great at this. Would you like to use your background in education to teach and coach parents to help with healthy sleep? And I was like, oh my goodness, it's such a need. I didn't know this existed until 5 minutes ago. How can we spread the word about this service and this support that can really customize things for unique families? And so I dove right in.
That is beautiful. I'm so happy because I had the same experience of like, I didn't know what life could be like with a newborn when they sleep. So yeah. I'm excited. So let's dive into, what is your approach to helping newborns create a healthy relationship with sleep?
Absolutely. I really love the idea of deep, meaningful connection with caregivers. So parents need help at different stages. I love that you reached out for sleep around 3 or 4 months. And I reached out for sleep or for help with sleep at that time too. I did not actually get the help that I needed, which is really tough. So I really encourage parents to, like, the minute that child is born, the goal of having a really deep, meaningful connection with caregivers and a great feeding relationship, and then opportunities to be independent. So those 3 things are kind of the trifecta of what I help to lay a foundation for in my newborn parenting program. Mm-hmm. Like really having deep connection, having a feeding relationship that you trust is healthy, and then lots of opportunities for babies to be independent throughout the day so that they can freely explore their own world, listen to their own body, and just have their own experience in the world. I, of course, did the exact opposite. I was really led to attachment parenting and felt that that would be the only way to create a strong attachment or bond with my baby. Mm-hmm. And it really did not serve me very well. I, of course, was so exhausted in that time. I kind of came out of a haze after she learned to sleep. And I was like, oh my gosh, my child, like, I can't wait to connect with you. I can't wait to learn about who you are and how we can be together in the world. I was really just base level functioning in my own world of darkness for a very long time.
Well, it's so interesting that you were saying you were doing attachment parenting, which means like very much with baby. And maybe we should explain that for those like, what's attachment parenting? But it's hearing you say, once your baby was sleeping, you had an excitement to be like, I want to get to know you and connect with you more, because that's what like attachment parenting is like. They're always with you. So how interesting that you were, from what I'm hearing and perceiving it, is you were more emotionally available to connect than just physically. Am I interpreting that right?
Interesting. Yes. Yeah. And so now I really encourage parents to acknowledge that it is normal and healthy for you to want to be an independent person from your child, whether that is taking a shower independently or going off to work independently, and that you can trust that your bond will be really strong with your child, regardless of the fact that you are both two independent people who are having an experience in your own bodies in your own way. And how do we give kids opportunities from a very, very early age to explore their environment and listen to their own body without having to feel like you have to be attached and like deeply connected at all times? So giving parents permission to be independent, and then also to have points of deep, meaningful connection. I sometimes find that when parents are coming to me and they're struggling with sleep and also feeding, that when I ask about, well, when are the times during the day that you find yourself really deeply connected to your baby? They cannot answer that.
Huh.
They're
what
like,
do they,
always
what do they
distracted. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
They're very, very distracted. And maybe even like when it's caregiving time, like diaper changing time or bathing time, they're like thinking of the next thing, or like spinning their wheels on something earlier that happened during the day. So that, I feel, can be one tool that I really love to give to parents, is like, how can you cue yourself to put everything down and just focus 100% in the moment for certain tasks that become cues for the brain for real, deep, meaningful connection?
No, that's actually really helpful, because I think many of us, myself included, we're doing a task and you're thinking of something else or something that we should have done or have to do. So when you're working with clients, are you finding certain times are more prevalent to find that connection? Is it feeding? Is it bath time? Is it the nighttime routine? When are you finding people the most present?
Yeah, it's during care tasks and here's like how I like to think of it. There are certain times during the day where your baby really needs you to take care of them. So that's going to be diaper changing, feedings, especially in the early days. And then later, it's other things like transitions from one place to the next, where once you get to that play date, your child may be independent playing and exploring that space, and they may not need you to be fully present.
Mm-hmm.
I find, my own experience when I was feeding small snacks all during the day, often because my baby was so overtired and fussy that I would just like feed her to quiet her.
Mm-hmm.
And to feel like, oh, okay, there's something I can do to like have some peace.
Mm-hmm.
I was probably feeding 12 to 15 times a day just to like make the discomfort go away.
Yeah.
For both of us. And then of course I was feeding all night, and I was like on my phone at night scrolling, and I wasn't deeply connected to my child at all. Once she slept through the night and she was like felt much more comfortable and capable of being independent and confident and empowered in her own little world, I realized that the times I did come together to feed her it was like 5 or 6 times a day. And I really wanted to be present for that. So I put everything down and we talked, we sang, we eye gazed, we did things that I hadn't done since the newborn stage, when I was like caught up in really getting to know her as a baby, etc. But I feel like there was these months of loss between us where I just really lost my ability to connect deeply and meaningfully to her. But that's also a mirror of my inability to connect meaningfully to myself.
Right. No, I hear that. So let's talk a little bit about baby self-soothing, because I think that's important for sleep. So what are your 3 beliefs that need to shift to help a baby self-soothe?
Absolutely. I love the idea that babies can self-soothe, and I oftentimes see and have to just keep scrolling or turn the page, messages that babies are not capable of self-soothing. Still today, this is a very common myth in the parenting realm. So thank you for helping me share some of my thoughts on that. And one belief I love to shift is that babies are bad sleepers. Some babies start out as great sleepers and others can learn. I love talking to parents. I don't often talk to parents that are like, oh yeah, my baby started sleeping through the night at 5 weeks. And my jaw drops. I'm like, wow, because those are not the parents that are contacting me with struggles. So I love this idea that like your baby may come out being a great sleeper from the start and other babies can learn. Sleep is just like any skill. So that's number one. And another common belief is that babies need to be attached to you in order to feel safe and connected all the time. So we already touched on that a little bit with this idea that you do not have to have your baby sleeping on you at all times in order for them to feel safe and connected. They can learn to self-soothe in an independent sleep situation.
That's amazing. So tell me more about that. So what would that look like? And when can they start this?
Yeah, I think some parents start offering opportunities for independent sleeping very soon out of the newborn gate. And because that may have been what is modeled for them in their family of origin. Or
so like what week would that be? So typically we think of that fourth trimester. So we're coming out of like the first 3 months.
Oh, no. I would offer babies opportunities to sleep in their own independent bassinet or crib immediately.
Oh, okay. So you're talking not just like, okay, so I guess I was confused self-sleeping. Yeah, we were not, and I know this is even controversial, we were not bed sharers. My son had a bassinet right next to us, but I like to take up space in bed. I'm 5'2". My husband's 6 feet, and he's like, "Yes, you take up space in bed." So we were not bed sharers. So when I was thinking independent, I was like thinking, okay, baby's down, and we're really giving space. So you're talking just its own.
Their own, I like to call it their own cozy sleep space. So
Okay.
a bassinet that is actually, I prefer a bassinet that is actually far away from you. So even though that's inconvenient for you to get up and offer feedings in the middle of the night, it actually creates a cozy little space for them to be able to link those sleep cycles without needing to eat all night long. So if baby wakes up and smells you right next to them, they're going to be like, oh, wouldn't it be nice? Would it be nice to have a belly full of warm milk and a nipple in my mouth and that sucking reflex? And I will just go, it would be so easy to go back to sleep. But if you can create some space, they might come in between sleep cycles. They might come into a state of semi-consciousness and then just get comfortable, roll over and go back to sleep all by themselves without needing a helper.
So when we say create their own space, like how I'm thinking about the first apartment we had with my son, and we were in a 500 square foot 1-bedroom. Right. So there was not a lot of space. So even when we moved his bassinet from the side of our bed, it was still maybe only 5 feet away. So like, I'm thinking about my New York listeners.
Every room is different. So I will sometimes have, and actually, I think it's good to pause and talk a little bit about the terminology we're using. So yeah. Co-sleeping is a baby sleeping in bed with you. Bed sharing, I guess, would be the most specific term. That would be bed sharing. Co-sleeping might be with a co-sleeper right beside you, right? Mm-hmm. There's lots of little attachments where it's like your mattress and their mattress are on the same level, and it's really easy to just grab them in and pull them to your breast and feed them throughout the night, and then you can both go back to sleep fairly easy. Many parents love that choice during the newborn stage. And I do actually consider that to be an independent sleep space for that child because it's not actually in bed with you. But like a cozy independent sleep space, their little cozy cave is kind of how I like to explain it to parents when I'm wanting them to give their child a little bit more space and independence, would be moving a baby from line of sight and even trying to get them 5 or 6 feet away so that the smell of breast milk and mama hormones isn't as strong. So actually lots of bassinets go down to the foot of the bed once parents are ready to start helping kiddos link those sleep cycles independently. And then there's room sharing, right? So with baby in the room with you, and the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends now room sharing for 1 year. When I first started this, it was 6 months. So 1 year is when parents are essentially encouraged to move babies to their independent bedroom. Does that help clarify a little bit?
That does, but now I have another follow-up
Go for
question,
it.
Sarah. So what if a parent is formula feeding? Then they're not worried about the smell as much. So can they be closer?
Well, so interestingly, the connection to wanting help linking sleep cycles is less about the actual nutrients and more about the connection to the caregiver.
Got it. Okay, so it's not the breast milk they're smelling. It's just
Nope.
the parent.
Yeah,
Got it.
it could
Okay.
be bouncing, rocking, shushing, singing, just laying next to you in bed, right? The nutrition is a very small part of it. We get really caught up in the fact that babies need feedings all night long, and that's why they're waking up. And that's actually only part of the equation for most babies. Most babies can very easily shift their nighttime calories to the daytime. It's actually the comfort and the association that they have with all of the different connection points with you that help them go into unconsciousness. Once they associate those things together, it's really hard for them to disassociate them.
Okay, now that's interesting. Okay, we're
Especially
going
if
to take
you're right next to them, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, we're going to take a break. When we come back, let's talk about the self-soothing compared to the cry and how we can tell the difference, because I think they'd be both overwhelming. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Okay, so we are back. So I know that babies need to learn how to self-soothe, but how can a parent learn the difference between the sound of self-soothing and the cry, that we're not just letting them
Right.
cry it out, freaking out?
Yeah, I really love the idea, and this can be a fun thing to teach. I feel like we need to unlearn some assumptions and fears about crying in order to really give our kiddos the space to even hear the difference. So I love that crying is not inherently bad. I think that it's a very powerful act of love to hold a calm, supportive space for anyone who is crying at any age. It is particularly difficult to hold that space for a newborn without running in 5 seconds and picking them up and wanting to fix or stop the crying. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
So I really love that. And that is such a gift that like mindfulness and our postpartum yoga practice can really help us get grounded and take those tools that we use on our mat and then apply that to when our child is crying. And I will be honest that sometimes there isn't a perceptible difference between a child who is crying and really struggling and needing help and a child who is overtired and overstimulated and just strung out and needs to sleep. Does that make sense? There's sometimes no difference. And I'm sorry that I cannot give you a concrete answer for that. Sometimes babies will just cry and there is nothing you can do to help them.
So at what point then does a parent go in? Because I remember, and each sleep consultant is going to work differently, but when we worked with a sleep consultant, she had what she called the red alert cry. So when babies first start to cry, we wanted to listen for the quality of the sound. Was it just like a little yellow alert, or was it like red alert? And then we go in. So how can
Absolutely. Yeah, I actually like the idea of a rhythmic quality. So I ask parents to get grounded, calm their own nervous system, and listen to the cry. And if it seems to be escalating over a period of time, then go in and check out what's going on. I call that the welfare check. Go in and do a welfare check, right? You never know what's going wrong, but there could be a lot of things in your mind that are making it hard for you to calm down. So if you go in and just check things out, it's going to make you feel a lot better. But if you're hearing a rhythmic quality to the cry, and it may even be accompanied by a rhythmic motion like ear pulling, cheek rubbing, leg kicking, it may sound like an ay, yay, 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 or a bub, 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 bub. That is a rhythmic quality that lets me know that a baby is self-soothing and it's best not to interrupt them. What can happen is they'll cycle out of that cry and escalate for a moment, and then they'll come back down into it. So the cycling between, and I wouldn't necessarily say a red alert, but let's say a baby's cycling between just a fussing cry and then a yellow alert cry that may cause your own nervous system to become dysregulated as you're listening to it, right?
No, that makes sense. I get that. That makes sense.
But then if you keep listening for another 30 seconds or a minute, then you're going to hear them sink back into like, ay, bub, 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 bub. And you'll have this moment of like, okay, they're doing it. They've got to practice this skill of ratcheting up and then calming themselves down. And that is a really fun thing to teach parents when they start to have the confidence to wait, listen, get grounded. They hear the development of that self-soothing cry. And that is huge. There are times of day it's really hard. Like it may just never happen in the afternoon, because afternoons can oftentimes mean overstimulation and over sensory kiddos. And so babies just might need more help at certain times of the day. But I like to encourage parents to give lots of opportunities for self-soothing so they can learn what that sounds like and baby can learn what it feels like.
No, that makes a lot of sense. So if you were to pick out, let's say 3 newborn sleep tips, what would they be?
Yeah, number 1 is to make sure that parents are getting the rest that they need. So this makes it a lot easier for you to provide that calm, supportive presence when your baby needs it, if you are able to get the sleep you need. So I often encourage parents to sleep in shifts. So one caregiver is able to sleep for 5 to 6 hours, linking multiple sleep cycles, and then their shift is over and they can jump in and be the care provider as needed. And most parents are able to kind of do that each day. Other parents will switch days, like you've got a day on and you've got a day off. If you have a breastfeeding parent, there are really not a lot of options if a baby doesn't take a bottle. And I am raising my hand. Neither of my children took bottles. And it was really frustrating for me that I couldn't share that responsibility during the night. So I had to do a lot. I actually would sometimes take very long naps during the day. And I hired childcare providers to help me so that I could do that. And that, I think, really helped me with my second when I said, there are a point in a newborn's need where they need to wake up and feed every 2 to 4 hours at night. And I'm that person who gets to do that. And it means that I need to ask for support and make it really clear about what I'm needing to help me stay in a healthy spot with feeding. And I did have a moment, gosh, it was a Target run, a 9 p.m. Target run at 2 weeks to go get diapers when we were living in Portland. And I remember I took the baby, and I remember driving home and being on a bridge, and I was like driving 60 miles an hour on a bridge over the river in Portland. And I just started crying uncontrollably, thinking, if the car goes over the edge of the bridge, how am I going to how am I going to reach back and get her out of there and keep her from drowning? Like, I had a complete meltdown in the dark. I got home. My husband found me in the car and was like, what is going on with you? And I just looked at him and I said 3 words: I need sleep.
I need sleep. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was like, but it took that at 2 weeks postpartum to really hit home, like how vital it was for me to get the sleep that I needed. And we set up a plan, and it was not easy for me to ask for what I needed. But we set up a plan, and that was a really good sign. Now, in my first postpartum experience, I had many signs like that, and I completely disregarded them. I did not feel comfortable asking for help, and I just sort of stoically dredged on, being really the only care provider. So that's my
newborn
first
1. Okay. It was parent gets sleep. Yes.
Yep.
Okay. What's
and
2?
then starting a newborn sleep routine is number 2. So this becomes a cue for the body and the brain that sleep is coming. And if you can have a couple of activities that you do before baby goes to bed, then that will help the brain transition into sleep even without the breastfeeding or the rocking or the bouncing or the laying in bed with you, because they know that those are things that precede sleep. So oftentimes at the newborn stage, it might be newborns don't really need baths. So I would recommend that for an older baby. But at the newborn stage, I recommend like a little infant massage, newborn massage technique, or some sort of hands-on activity that might even be 30 seconds during the diaper change before getting a kiddo into a sleep sack or a swaddle. And then I recommend a song. So those are two really big sensory activities that are kind of going to light up the whole body and all the senses for a baby. And then that song is going to be the cue for the brain, sleep is coming. Now you can pull that into your sleep training routine when you're ready to teach independent sleep. Do you see how that works?
Absolutely. No, we actually did something very similar. We did a bath and then I did infant massage because we had it in my studio. I literally tried to keep infant massaging him into my first until he was like running away from me. I'm like, let me put this on your skin. We're going to have bonding time. So I did that from like young up to he was like 1.
I love that.
I still think about that. His naked tissue running away from me because
I'm done with this massage stuff, Mom.
And then, I always did a story or a song. Oh, that's great. All right. So sleep routine. And what's the third one?
It's honoring your baby's sleep need. So remembering that newborns need average of 18 hours of sleep, and that is a lot. And the longer they nap and the more they link sleep cycles overnight, the better they're going to feel when they wake up. So if they're able to link those sleep cycles during the day because they're in a dark environment with white noise that helps them sleep uninterrupted, they are going to feel so much better. And it's going to be easier to get them back to sleep the next time you go to put them down for a nap. Mm-hmm. This can be really, really hard because 18 hours of sleep is like a lot of your day. And I sometimes need to work with clients and to just ask, like, what is the one time during the day when you can honor your child's nap and maybe let them sleep for a full 2 hours if they need to? And it can be really hard for parents to pin down 2 hour time during the day where that child can be in their independent sleep space in a dark room, getting all the sleep that they need and not be like in a stroller, in a car seat, in a carrier, getting interrupted all the time.
Yeah, especially a second kid. Like my first, we had such, I'm going to use the word strict, very structured. That's a better one. Very, very structured sleep routine, very structured naps. And then I had my second and it couldn't be as structured. I tried. At least one nap was, but by the second one, I had to be out picking my other one up or taking him to the playground. So she napped in my carrier often. So I find that I love that advice, but at the same time, I found it hard.
Well, and that's actually one of my favorite jobs is working with clients. Once we teach independent sleep skills, part of my requests for them before we do our graduation call together is to take some risks, right? Hire a babysitter to do a date night and they'll do the sleep routine. See how it rolls out with someone that's not a parent. Go to yoga. Walk baby in a stroller around the block and then maybe like keep them in their dark, put a little blanket or a cover over them and keep them in a dark spot and take your baby in their carrier to postnatal yoga class. Like you've got to take care of yourself. Yeah. How can we get a short nap in while you're doing your self-care? And then in the afternoon, it's going to make it a lot easier for you to honor their sleep need and let them link those cycles for 2 hours before then you maybe do an afternoon pickup or go to the park or something like that. I totally agree that with an older child, you are oftentimes, especially once they're an infant and they're taking 2 naps a day, you've got an infant napping in the morning and the afternoon and a toddler napping in the middle of the day. And it's like, wait a minute.
Yeah, it's tough. We actually at one point had their naps lined up and I'm like, this is the best.
Magic. Yeah.
So what are you talked a little bit about like the dark room, but let's talk about safe sleep guidelines that every parent should know. What would be kind of your top ideas for that?
Yeah, I typically follow the AAP's guidelines for safe sleep. So going to sleep on their back and sleeping in their cozy, independent sleep space without any extra stuff in their crib. Most people know those. During the newborn stage, it's actually really important, and I feel like my baby slept in so many inappropriate places. But we now have a lot of data and clarity on like gizmos and gadgets for kids that are meant for activity time versus for sleep time. Like the rock and play. My kiddo loved to sleep in the rock and play. We now know that's not safe. So there are lots of toys or activity times places for baby that we want to make sure, especially in the first 6 weeks of life, when their head and neck and torso muscles are developing, that we don't allow long naps. If baby falls asleep in a car seat, we transfer them to a safe, flat, dedicated sleep space. If baby falls asleep in their little bouncer, which they're like to do, right? And in a swing, we transfer them to a flat, cozy sleep space in that first 6 weeks, especially.
Yeah. What about if you're wearing baby? But I guess that's baby's more upright, but the chin can still fall down into the chest.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, I feel like most parents are pretty attentive during baby wearing, and the newborn nose is a really amazing thing. Like it can be kind of smashed against a parent's chest and they can still breathe through it. That's amazing newborn technology. And so I oftentimes ask parents to just trust that especially when you've got a toddler and you're at the park and you're carrying your newborn baby, just trust that they're going to be okay if they're in a carrying situation, and then check back with them every once in a while, right? Like oftentimes our intuition will tell us and we'll check in. Do I think the carrier is a great place for babies to get quality sleep? No, I don't. So that's another, going back to honoring their sleep need. I think they oftentimes will like wake up or be alerted or startled on a carrier while you're living your life and running around. And that will make it hard for them to get back to sleep, especially as they get older, to that 8-week or 10-week mark. It's hard for them to relink cycles once they've alerted. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Wow. I've really enjoyed this conversation because you've given so much solid information. We're going to take another break. And when we come back, what is one final tip or piece of advice you would like to offer new and expectant parents? And this can be from any of the hats you wear, either from a sleep consultant to a doula to a prenatal teacher, or even as a parent. So chew on that for a moment. We'll be right back. Okay, so we are back. So what is one final tip or piece of advice you'd like to offer new and expectant parents?
I love this question, and it is to trust your baby. I love encouraging parents to trust that their baby can be an incredible sleeper and that you can be the mindful, compassionate coach that is empowered and educated and knows how to teach and hold space for these vital skills.
That is really, really great. Thank you. And where can people find your work?
Yeah, I am Kristine Petterson, so KristinePetterson.com, but also Mindful Parenting Revolution. So I work a lot with newborn parents and toddler parents to learn to trust themselves so that they can trust their babies and their child's incredible abilities. And you can also find on Instagram and Facebook Mindful Parenting Revolution as well.
Kristine, thank you so much. I love practical information that can help parents' lives. So thank you so much for this wonderful conversation.
Yeah, thank you for giving me the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're so welcome.
This has been an episode of Yoga Birth Babies, produced by Prenatal Yoga Center. You can catch us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Periscope. I'm Deb Flaschenberg. Thanks for listening.